wish I had more intuition, or I wish I could tap in, or I wish I could do all of these things. Part of that, I've discovered, is all about who you are, knowing who you are inside. If you do not know who you are, your intuition is stifled. And what happens is that we get on this journey in our life, in our personal life, in our business life. And people think, oh, if you use your intuition, that's taking a chance. That's taking it, ooh, how do you know that for sure? But people that do not use their intuition, they absolutely 100% know. And why they know? It's because they know themselves and they trust what they know. And that's where, when you start using your intuition, it's because you've figured out who you are. And that's why lots of times you'll find ladies who get into their late 40s and 50s, they'll be like, oh yeah, I use my intuition way more than I used to. And why is that? It's because you know who you are. And what that is about is knowing, what do you like? What do you like? What makes you mad? What ticks you off? You have to know that about yourself. I know absolutely. People who know me, I'm a totally reactive person. So I've had to hone that in. So in my 20s, I would be like, a little bit like that. And still, I'm going to be 50 this year. And still, my insides still do that. But I don't outwardly act it. Well, the odd time, but not very often. Not very often do I ever get pushed to that place. And why is that? Because I've learned to master my emotions. And that doesn't mean ignoring them. That doesn't mean having control over, if you feel like crying, I cry. If I feel like yelling at my kids, I do that and then pay the price later. All of those things. And it's about realizing when you figure out who you are, what you're about, it makes your life easier. Not only in your personal life, but in your business life. Daphne was talking about how she let go of some clients, and I'm gonna tell a little story about her, if that's okay. I've told this story before, and I got permission before in case I did not putting Daphne on the spot. She had this client that she was going to work with, signed a contract. She had a few inklings before. This client seemed to be like she was going to be a lot of work and taking up a lot of time, but she signed the contract. Client's worth $10,000. Once the contract is signed, the phone calls and the emails and the outrageous requests of her time and what should happen and all of that started to mount. And so Daphne was like, what am I going to do? This is going to be a really high client, time-sucking client, but it's worth $10,000. How many of you could give up a $10,000 client just because it doesn't sit right with you? How many could be brave enough?
I do.
Right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And why do you do that? Because you know yourself. And the other thing is that when you do that, you realize you let go of that. The minute that Daphne let go of that, within 1 week, she let go of the client, refunded her money, okay? Your energy changes then immediately. And then what you're attracting what you want. And so what happened for Daphne is that she attracted a bigger, better client. Not worth 10 grand, worth millions over quite a few years. So people say, oh, how do you do that? How do you let go of the client when you don't know for sure? Why? Because you start to trust yourself. And so it's not just about a gut instinct. It's about actually knowing who you are. And when you can know who you are, you can actually you realize we don't do anything alone. And if you're trying to do stuff alone, if you're trying to do your business alone, stop it. It's not how life works. It takes a village. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're raising kids, whether you're running a business, it does not matter. It takes a village to live your life, right? You surround yourself with family, friends, all of those things, business people. And so because we're talking about business today, let's come back. So once you realize who you are, and I'm going to give you a little exercise to kind of pummel that forward a little bit, so to speak. But once you realize who you are, you can start surrounding yourself with the people that are going to help you get to where you want to go. And this is a team. Because like I said before, you never do anything alone. And so a year ago, well, it's more than that now, I decided that I needed to surround myself with a team. My team happened to just be one person because she had the team. So that was outstanding for me. It was like finding a shiny diamond, you know. And so I hired Daphne, and her and I, we're going to be married for life, but we've become friends. And so what we give to each other as far as business people, she'll tell me if, oh no, that's a terrible idea. And vice versa. You didn't listen to me, but that's okay. But when it comes from that, you start reaching out then. You start networking. I meet Dorothy. I meet all of you ladies. We're in Womanition magazine, Divorce magazine, and you start putting yourself out there. And why is that? I trust what I know now. And it's not just a gut feeling. It's because I know what works for me and what doesn't. Right? I can get ready in 15 minutes. Okay? I can. Do I ever want to? No. I'm an hour and a half. I dawdle, walk around, play with the dogs, get a couple cups of coffee. I need to get up early because I want that dawdling time. When I don't get that, it throws my day off. And so for me, I know that about myself. So I've had to get up earlier and earlier as my life permits. I used to always be late. Then I used to spend the first 5 minutes apologizing to people. I'm hardly ever late now. And why? It's because I know that it takes me this long. I know that. I know what I like. If my kids are home and they're hosting a bunch of friends for dinner and I know that they've made a big mess, I call and say, you know what, I'm on my way home. I need to clean up the kitchen. Why? Because I don't want to arrive home to that mess. Because that stuff makes me mad. I know how many clients I can take in a day. And all of that is because you realize your limitations. And people think that limitations is a bad word. It's not. It's knowing what works for you and what doesn't. And so coming back to the intuition, I want you to think of 3 people right now. 3 people that you know in your life and that you admire. Okay? So just think of those 3 people.
How's me, myself, and I?
Yeah. The world doesn't end here for Dorothy at all. I want you to take one of those people off the list. Just pick one out of those 3. I want you to think of 3 qualities about that person that you just love. And it can be anything. So once you have your 3 qualities, now I want you to realize that you also have those qualities. You cannot see in someone else something that you do not have. Mm-hmm. And so the beauty of that is we're all mirrors. Mm-hmm. Yikes. So we're all mirrors. Yeah. So when that person pushes your buttons, what do you do? Like, what do you do? Right? Do you push back? Do you recognize, wow, something interesting? I will look at myself about that. Right? Don't worry, I don't always calmly do that. But that's what it is. People reflect us. And so how we see the world also shows up in our life every single day. What we think about things. So if your life is really great, you're putting that out to the world because that's what you feel and think. It doesn't mean that shit doesn't happen. That's 100% true. It's what you do about it when it happens. And that comes back to knowing yourself and how you react. You always have the choice. We always get to choose how we're going to react. We may not always get to choose what is happening to us or around us, but we ultimately always get to choose what we do about it. And that's huge. You can walk away from a $10,000 contract. Are all of you going to walk away from a $10,000 contract and get a contract worth millions? I don't know. But maybe. Right? And what you see in others is always a reflection of what is in yourself. And that, yes, always. The good, the bad, everything else. Right? But it's 100% true. Right? Those parts of us that we deny, right? There's so much stuff out there. I kind of fight against this because throughout my life, all the teachings teach you that the ego should be over here and you should contain it and you should do all of this stuff. And that never resonated with me. Because when I was younger, my ego served me a lot of times. It kind of drove me a little bit when I needed it. And so it didn't resonate with me. And what I've come to learn is that your ego and your personality and your soul, they all need to work together. And so whether you do any spiritual work or not, it doesn't matter. It's what you know about yourself and how it works for you. So as much as I feel that the ego needs to be a part of us. It gets us out of some tough situations sometimes. But it's also sometimes the ego that sees things in other people that we don't particularly like. But if you look really hard, those are things that we don't like about ourselves. And you just have to embrace the stuff that you don't like about yourself. There's so much stuff I don't like about myself. And it took me a long time to go, you know what, yeah, I can be like that. And I know that I can be like that. But I choose nowadays not to. Right? I can be a little bitch. Can anyone else attest to that? Don't put your hand up. I'm just teasing. It's those places, though, is that's where we have to start trusting what we know about ourselves. And that's the same with business, right? If you're not liking what's going on in your business, just change your perspective a little bit and start creating what you want in your business. And yes, you might need help. I have a lot of help. Okay, I don't do anything alone, nothing. And frankly, most things get deferred to Daphne for that. They really do. But I know that about myself. I don't want to do all of that stuff. And so for me, that works really well. I get to go. When we first met, she goes, so what do you want to do? And I said, I just want to show up and be the talent. And we laughed really hard. And then after we were done, I said to her, I'm not kidding. Like, you'll get to know that I'm not kidding. So for us, the intuition, when you put everything together and put it towards your business and towards your personal life, you start to see the I want to say the stone effect of it, the ripple of it. It starts to go out. And why? It's because what you know about yourself, you trust. And then that's what you put forward to the world. If you have something unique to offer the world, you should be telling people. You absolutely should. And if you can't tell people, then you need to find someone to go with you that can tell people. I take Daphne to most of my networking events. I'm a terrible networker. It's challenging for me. And so I take her, and she's great. She's well worth the money. But those are the things. Or I take a girlfriend or anything like that. Do you know, Sam and I have been to networking. Carrie and I have been to networking. Right? Jana, I take somebody there with me. And it's not because I can't do it alone. I don't want to. And I know that about myself. Right? And so for me, that's the trust that I have in myself, is knowing what works for me and what doesn't. And so if you trust yourself enough to get to know yourself a little bit better, take that, make a list. Make a list of the people that you know and all their qualities. And realize that those are in you too. And then if you want to take it a step further, you can do the opposite of those qualities, which is the darker side. Those are in you too. But it's a choice. And so tapping into that for your business or your personal life, all because becomes something that you start doing. And that knowing that you have is not outside you, and it's not just a gut feeling. You can do it for your physical health too. I'm celiac. 100% know that if something gets put in front of me, And I've been to a place where I've actually, not been paying attention and bringing it up to and I just get this feeling that I can't have it, and I double check and I can't. And I know that now. I can feel whether I should be having something. Today I really wanted a cup of coffee, and my body was like, it took a couple sips and it didn't taste good. And my body just said, no, like you can't have that. And I was like, okay, I'll drink more water. Obviously didn't eat any more coffee. But coming back, intuition is about knowing yourself and about self-discovery. And so I want to take an opportunity right now just to, if there's any questions I kind of want to put out there. Usually there's a few questions about things. Does anyone have a question?
Yeah, I've got one. So what is it about us, or women, or I'll say me? So the last partner that I had in my life for 5 years, I thought I chose well, and yet, really when it came right down to it, the kinds of, when you talk about what you're reflecting back in you, so it turned out that this partner wasn't accountable, like all these things that I stand for, and yet they weren't there. And so, smart, competent women choosing, I don't know. Yeah. So why didn't my intuition work for me then? Was it the love drugs, or like?
And so did it?
What's that?
Your intuition worked for you when you?
Oh, in the end.
In the end,
after 5 years.
Yeah. And so you're asking why it didn't work for you before?
Yeah, at the beginning. Like,
what did you learn in the 5 years that you were with him?
Holy smokes, the lessons are huge.
Exactly.
So I had to go through that to learn all the lessons.
Yes. And that's exactly what happens is you don't necessarily, if you were to know yourself then, as you know yourself today, would you still choose that person?
No.
Exactly.
Never.
Exactly. And why? Because you learned things about yourself. And that's what our journey is about learning about ourselves and taking that information and making wiser and better decisions. Right? And that's why you see, it doesn't matter age. Yes, you get a little more relaxed about things as you get older. However, it's mostly because we learn things about ourselves in the relationships and in challenges that we have. Right? In my first marriage, I couldn't listen to myself, but my dad and I, the church was so small, my dad and I were standing outside the door. And I looked at my dad, but he didn't look at me. And if my dad had said to me, the money doesn't matter, I'd have been running to the car, picked my dress up, and away I go. But that's not what happened. I was stood outside, and I realized that this was not a good idea. And yet, I'm in it now. Right? And people meet my former husband because he's the father of my 2 children, and they're like, I don't see that. And it's because I would never ever choose him. But those broken parts of me chose him. And why? Because I needed to heal it. And it was a tough, long road.
Both my husbands, I said, the day that I got married, I said, I'm going to get a divorce. The day of my wedding, I said, I'm going to get a divorce. The day of
that attitude.
No, I was finally listening to something, but it was.
But there you are, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Sorry, I interrupted somebody.
Mary Lynn?
Well, actually, Judy's example kind of reinforces why I'm asking the question. The difference between emotion and intuition.
Mm-hmm.
So this emotion of love or desire or whatever it happens to be, sometimes it just provides whatever your intuition is.
Yeah, so that's a part of when you acknowledge your emotions, like lots of us, how many of you have been someplace and something's come up for you, a person's irritated you or whatever, and it gets stuck right here. And then you might snap at them or lash out at them or whatever, or that kind of thing. That is not being, when you master your emotions, you realize that that's not the best thing to do, is to snap at someone at the time. And so when you honor that, the emotional side of you, then you are trusting what you know. And that will just, it all kind of unfolds and it goes together. You have to acknowledge your emotion. You have to. We as women are courageous and brave and vulnerable, and we are all of those things. Like the spectrum of our emotions is huge. And when we acknowledge for all the good things about us, light things, happy things, there's a dark side. There's a dark side, but it's always a choice. And so even though sometimes you don't feel like you have a choice about your feelings, you have a choice about what you're going to do about it. And that is always, always, always true. What we do about in any given situation, right? There's times I get behind the wheel and I become a different person. Like I need a driver in a Bentley. Like I do. I just can't, like I need my own ropes and stuff. It's just better for me. And it's not because it's not like I am road rage or whatever, but my insides, I just don't visually want anyone in front of me. I just want to drive happy. And so I know that, and I have to leave a little bit early because as soon as I start leaving a little bit late, I'm like, oh, got the slowest driver in, all of that stuff. Have you ever noticed how that's happened?
Yeah.
You're late, you start to stress. Every slow driver got the call, you got to get on the road. Deborah's on the road, she's trying to get from here to there. Do you know all of those things? When you're in a hurry and your patience is really lacking, then what shows up for you? Oh my God, an opportunity to be patient, right? We have to be careful what we ask for, what you put out there, right? If you're asking for patience, guess what happens? You're going to get situations where you have to use your patience. I don't ask for that anymore, right? Be choosy about what you're going to ask for. Anyways, I think my time is up. Thank you, ladies. If you want to know any more,
Okay, so we are going to